Today I'm going to show you how to sew the absolute easiest swaddled little fabric doll. This is a great project for kids or for beginners. The pattern is below in the link in the description box, or if you're watching from our website, alohasewingcompany.com, welcome and sew along. Here is the fabric doll with the headband and the hair on it. You can choose not to put hair on it if you don't want to, but if you do, I have 4 different hairstyles to choose from inside the pattern, and it is printable. The seams do not show, and we close it at the end using a blind ladder stitch. This is the boy doll. You can either leave it bald or add hair like I did at the top there. And here's my sweet little 3-year-old. She loves playing with these dolls, and I love it because there's no choking hazard. So she's had them since she was just 1 year old. How you want to add the facial features are completely up to you. I chose to hand embroider them, which is super simple, quick, and easy to do in about 15 minutes if you're even taking your time. You can also machine embroider or use fabric paint or markers to do that face, and I give you the pattern piece to draw the outline to where you're going to put these on that doll face. If you want to add hair to the doll, you can use whatever material you want to use as long as the fabric does not fray. Here's the hair piece that I'm using today. This is some faux fur. All this stuff was really inexpensive at my local craft store, and I think I got this for 50% off. And this is just 33-cent felt sheets. These are easy and they don't fray. You can use that for hair. And my personal favorite is to use faux leather. These sheets you can normally get for $1 or $2, and you can use the front or the back of it if you want. For the face, if you are adding hair, you're going to cut one head of your pattern piece onto a flesh colored fabric. I have 3 different colors here to show you. The first one I don't really recommend. I'm just showing you for color reference. If it's a very thin, you can kind of see through it fabric, it's harder to embroider on. This is a different color, and here's my favorite. It's more of a light canvas type fabric, and I like to use that because it's most sturdy. So once you have your pattern pieces printed out, you're going to cut them onto your fabric. If you are adding hair like I am, the back of your doll head is also going to be the same color as the hair you're adding to the front. This is the back of my doll head. If you are just using a bald baby, you're going to just cut out of that flesh colored fabric. In my pattern, and the link in the description box below, you can print it out. I include 4 different shapes for the hair, so choose which one you want if you're going to add hair. Here is my doll face. I've already hand embroidered it and cut out my front hair piece. I'm going to lay it right on top of that doll head, matching at the top, and then give it a couple pins or clips. And then using about a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, you're going to sew this in place right where the hairline meets the doll face. Make sure you do this slowly because this is showing on your doll. Here is mine. I used a coordinating thread, and again, you don't sew across the top. You're just going to sew right there along the hairline. Now you're going to get your doll body for the front of your doll and put the head facing down right on top of that doll body, aligning the necks of both of those fabric pieces. So the right side of your fabric should be together. So using a 1/4 inch seam allowance right across that neck like I've done here. Normally I'd use a coordinating thread, but I want you to be able to see my stitching. Open this up and press your seam open, and then now let's work on the back of your doll head. Whether you're using a hair piece like I am here, or you're using just the flesh colored fabric, you're going to do it the same way. You're going to lay it with the right sides together, meeting at the neckline, and then you're only going to sew to hold this in place about 1 inch on both sides, leaving a gap right here in the middle. Here is mine sewn for the back of the doll. You can see I only sewed it about 1 centimeter to about 1 inch, 1/2 inch to 1 inch, just to hold that in place. And then let's open that up and press that seam as well. This is going to create the opening in the back of our doll so that we can stuff it later. Now you're going to leave this facing you, the fabric pretty side facing you, and get the front of your doll piece. lay the front doll piece right sides together so that the pretty sides of your fabric are kissing on the inside, just like it is here. And then you're going to pin or clip it in place all the way around your doll. Now you're going to take this to your sewing machine and sew all the way around your entire doll. If you are hand stitching, do the same thing. Here is mine all sewn. I used brown thread so that you could see it on this video. And if you don't want to make that other doll hair, you're making a boy doll, you can either not add any hair or add just a few pieces of felt or yarn, just like I did here for this little boy doll. And I'm going to show you how to do that really quick. You're going to just cut a small piece of felt with 2 slits in it, however wide or skinny you want them to be. I just made 2 slits so that I had 3 little strands of hair. And then you're going to place it in the middle of the top of your doll head. I fold the top of the doll head just to get that crease of the middle point at the top of the head and place those pieces of hair facing down towards the face of your doll. Then get the other part of your fabric doll, the back side, and place it right side down, just like you did before. And you're gonna sew this exactly like you would if you had the other hair piece on. Once you're finished, you're going to just snip that extra seam allowance, and then you're gonna follow the same exact steps to finish this doll as you would if you used the hair piece or if you did not add a hair piece. Just for quick reference, this is what it looks like when it's all done with those little hair pieces. So let's get back to our girl doll. We have it all sewn. I sewed around those curves slowly and carefully. And now what you're going to do is flip it to the back side and make sure that when you sewed it, that you pressed your seams open on that back so that it lays nice and flat, right there where the doll head meets the body. So now we are going to cut slits all the way around any of the curves of this fabric doll, around the head and around the bottom of the body. You can use pinking shears as well. Make sure you don't cut through your stitches, but just make a whole bunch of slits right up to your stitches. And you're going to do this because when we flip it right side out, if you don't give that fabric those slits that it needs to make sure that those curves poke out nice and rounded, because otherwise your fabric will pucker when we flip this right side out. Now that we have all of our slits made, let's take this to the back. And through that whole opening right there in the neckline, let's flip this fabric right side out. If you are using faux leather or a really thicker felt for the hair, it can be a little tricky to get the head through. Just do it slowly and carefully so that you don't break through your stitches. After you have your doll flipped right side out, go ahead and go in with your finger. I also like to use a chopstick and smoothen out all of your seams and make sure all of your curves are nice and rounded. Now let's bring this to our ironing mat and go ahead and press it flat with your iron to get any of the wrinkles out of your fabric doll face and the body. Make sure to put a piece of cloth over the face because you don't want to accidentally ruin it, burn it, or even possibly get some kind of residue on the face. Now I'm ready to stuff my doll. I'm just going to use some polyester fiber fill packing. You can use whatever you have on hand. I just like this one because it's a little bit of a sturdier, thicker stuffing. But if you even have an old pillow on hand, rip that sucker open and you can use that kind of stuffing. So through the whole opening in the back, measure with your heart and go ahead and stuff the head and the body of your doll. Now, if you have some fabric puckering around your curves, put some extra stuffing in those areas. The more you stuff it, the less puckering and floppiness that you're gonna have with your doll. And make sure that once you have the head and the body both stuffed, put some extra stuffing right at the neckline where you have that opening. Here's my doll all stuffed. Now the only thing we have left to do is go to the back of the neck, and you're going to close this opening using a ladder stitch. If you don't know how to sew using a ladder stitch, I've included a link to a tutorial on how to do that. It only takes just a couple of minutes at most, and you're going to push your fabric inwards about 1/4 of an inch and close up that opening in the back, and none of your seams will show in your doll. Here is my doll all finished. I have sewn the back of the doll using that ladder stitch. It took me about 2 minutes to do, and you can't see any of the open seams on the doll. I have also included a pattern piece that you can print off to make a coordinating doll headband. I think it adds a cute touch. You can use coordinating fabric, and just like the rest of this project, it takes very, very little fabric. So this is just some scrap fabric that I had. I'm going to cut 2 of these pieces from this pattern piece to go with my doll. So I'm going to fold one of them in half with the right sides of the fabric together, place my pattern piece where it says cut on fold. I'm gonna place it right on the fold of my fabric, and I'm going to pin or clip it in place just so it doesn't move around, and then you're going to trace right on top of your fabric. Once you have this traced onto your fabric, you can see I have the right sides of the fabric together. I'm gonna cut 2 of these, so I'm going to get another piece of fabric and fold it in half, and then I'm gonna stack these 2 pieces of fabric right on top of each other, matching up at the folds. Pin or clip them together, and then cut out along this trace line all the way around your fabric, all at the same time. Here it is all cut out. Now I'm going to put it back on the fold and just make a little teeny mark on the fabric right where you see the mark on your pattern piece. Then you're gonna open up that same piece of fabric, just that one, and make a mark about 2 inches away from that mark you just made. Now you're going to put these 2 pieces of fabric with the right sides together. And then you're going to pin or clip it in place if you need to, so that it doesn't move when you're sewing. I am using a flannel fabric and it doesn't shift too bad, so I'm not going to pin or clip it. And then you are going to sew all the way around this headband piece, except for those 2 inches right in the middle that we made here. So you're gonna start at the first line and stop at the second, and don't sew in between those 2 markings. So here's mine all finished. You can see I didn't sew right there in the middle, and there's a little hole opening we're gonna use here in a minute to flip this right side out. And the next thing we're gonna do is, just like your doll curves, if you have curves on your headband, you wanna go ahead and make clips all the way around your curves so that this curve lays nice and flat when we flip it right side out in a minute. Now let's go to that hole opening at the bottom, and let's flip this right side out. You can do it however you like to do it. If you have a turning tool, use that. I like to stick a chopstick into one of my ends so that my fabric opens up. And then I pinch both sides of the fabric to open it at the top and make a tiny little pocket. And then I put the tip of my chopstick in, and I push that fabric right over the chopstick so that right when that chopstick meets that hole opening, I can pull the fabric right side out. And I do the same thing for the other side, and this is just quick and easiest for me. Now you want to bring it to your ironing mat and make sure all your seams are nice and flat and opened up, and iron this flat with your iron. The hole opening should be pressed inward about 1/4 of an inch so that it makes it flush with the rest of the fabric on the outside. It normally naturally just does this anyway, since this is a small item that we sewn, but if it hasn't, go ahead and press your opening in about 1/4 of an inch like I've done here, and then you can hand stitch this closed if you want to. Use your machine and sew right across using a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, or you can even put a piece of hot glue or fabric glue right on the inside to close that. And then the next thing that we're going to do is fold this in half so we find the middle point of our headband. Put your doll head right smack onto the middle point of that headband, and then you're just going to make a double knot to hold this in place. And now your little fabric doll is completely finished. If you like to make different things for your baby doll accessories, I even have a Moses bed and a sleeping bag, pillows and blankets, little burr cloths you can add to it. It makes such a great collection to sew as a gift. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and have fun sewing along with me. Please, please, please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel to see all of our easy sewing patterns as they're released. Visit AlohaSewingCompany.com, or the link is down below in the description box on YouTube to see all of our super easy sewing patterns that you can print at home so you can start to sew faster. We make sewing patterns for literally everything, from baby items, kids' clothes, decorations, holiday stuff and gifts, bags and more. And before you go, mahalo.